YouTube is no stranger to controversy. In the last few years, some of the craziest things have happened on the platform that have sparked outrage in the entire world. With Logan Paul's shenanigans in Japan or PewDiePie's all-out wars with Wall Street Journal, YouTube stars have definitely given their fair share of scandals to the world. But some of the scandals definitely stand out as being unusual and completely random, which make it all more surprising than your average internet frenzy. From backfiring anger and crazy plot twists to unpredictable emotional outbursts and dark mysteries, here are some bizarre YouTube controversies that shook people. 14 years ago, in June 2006, a friendly 16-year-old girl named Brie Avery, or more commonly known as Lonely Girl 15, began to post videos on YouTube. In them, she is simply sitting in front of her webcam and talking to the audience, nothing out of the ordinary. But Brie's likable antics made her the very first viral YouTube star. People loved her for her authenticity and relatable personality, and she seemed to have a great time exploring her world and talking about it in her videos. She was an absolute phenomenon in the early days of internet culture. So imagine the shock when a few months later people found out that Lonely Girl 15 did not actually exist. Yes, that's true. The story of Lonely Girl 15 is often said to be the first YouTube scandal ever. It turns out that Brie Avery was a fictional character played by 19-year-old actress Jessica Rose, and every single video she had posted had been written and directed by 3 California filmmakers to look like an authentic video diary. In a surprising event for the time, mainstream media picked up the story, with the New York Times even going on a special investigation to unmask the people behind it all. But the web series ended up continuing and spawned a number of spin-offs, up until its end until 2008. Christian Halof is a YouTube personality behind a number of internet communities. He co-created Schmooze Know, the Collider live daily show, and he even was a major part of the popular Collider movie talk for years. He is also a devoted Star Wars fan who solidified his place in the fandom with his weekly show JD Concealed, in which he broke down news about the franchise with a variety of co-hosts. But Christian is also known for having a very strange temper and engaging in toxic behaviors against anyone who dared to criticize him. And it was made very clear when he had a completely random meltdown live on air during one of his shows. When he found out that he wasn't invited to an exclusive visit at the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge theme park in 2019, and later heard that another reporter at Collider was going instead of him, Harloff threw a literal fit and declared live on air that he would not be covering anything related to Galaxy's Edge on any of his shows. He ranted about his status in the Star Wars community online with his JD Concealed show, claiming, "I've been busting my ass being a Star Wars fan for 5 years. That did not fly with the producer of the show, Tad Williams, who immediately grabbed the mic and put Harloff in his place by reminding him that the show belonged to the Collider, and that he would be addressing Collider's coverage of Galaxy's Edge, whether he wanted or not. Harloff immediately exploded on him in a full-on temper tantrum, and the two proceeded to verbally attack each other for 5 minutes on end, with everyone else in the show awkwardly sitting there in silence. In the following days, Harloff was absolutely blasted off by the entire world, and was even called out by the Star Wars writers on Twitter, who accused him of acting like a spoiled child who didn't get his toy. Some even accused him of being sexist for being angry about women being sent to Galaxy's Edge instead of him, and he was essentially written off as a representation of everything wrong with the Star Wars fandom, and why Star Wars fans can't even be taken seriously. The backlash was so intense that Christian had to apologize more than once on air, admitting that his reaction was immature, entitled, and embarrassing. This particular controversy has been fascinating to many because it involves creators from two different cultures. Motoki is an Asian American creator and Math Podcast is French. Both are very successful, but they seemingly have nothing to do with one another. They shouldn't have anything to do with one another, but in 2016, some fans discovered in the strangest way that they had more in common than anyone could have thought. Over time, more and more people started to notice that Math's videos were very similar to Motoki's, a bit too similar. In fact, they were the same, to the word, to the second, and sometimes to the shot. People realized that Math had been copying every single one of Motoki's videos by translating them to French and reshooting them the exact same way, giving Motoki no credit whatsoever and making his French audience believe that he was the creator behind it all. He would sometimes even steal shots from the original videos and seamlessly reedit them into his versions. In February 2016, Motoki ended up speaking about this, confirming that Math had never asked for his permission to remake his videos. Both American and French media took on the story and condemned Math for his actions. He had built a highly successful career by stealing Motoki's work, and he decided to take action. Naturally, Math's career crashed before he could even say oops. And despite numerous apologies and attempts to reinvent his channel over the years, he never recovered from the scandal and has now completely vanished from YouTube. At first glance, Olivia Jade is your average teenage social media influencer and YouTube star. She has had an audience for a while, her content is harmless, and nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. Except, of course, for the fact that Olivia is the daughter of the disgraced Full House star Lori Loughlin and fashion designer Mossimo Giannulli, who were recently sentenced to 2 and 5 months in prison after pleading guilty to charges of bribery fraud. Olivia reportedly helped her parents forge an extracurricular file after they paid over $500,000 in bribes to get their daughter accepted at the University of Southern California ahead of any other students who applied for admission. When the scandals was exposed and lawsuits started to rain, Olivia was promptly dropped by the major brands that endorsed her, and she was essentially being banished from the internet, resulting in a year-long that led her to a 2020 apology press tour that has been poorly received. Tana Mongeau is a creator that is known for her eccentric personality, having become famous for her crazy and often proven to be fake storytime videos on YouTube. Just like many problematic creators on the platform, her ego is her primary drive in life. And that assessment was never made more clear than on the day Tana decided to create her own convention, TanaCon. When the massive VidCon event refused to invite her as a featured creator for their 2018 edition, Tana decided to get back at them by launching her own free convention on the same day as VidCon and across the street from them. The problem was that Tana widely underestimated the implications and was incredibly unprepared for the challenge. What ensued was an absolute train wreck that left thousands of people waiting in front of the full venue in brutal heat without food or water, and even resulting in people having to be sent to the ER in ambulances. The police had to intervene and give numerous statements on the situation, and due to the catastrophe it had turned into, the 3-day event was cancelled before the end of its first day. It was later revealed that TanaCon was also a scam, as Tana and her team had advertised the event as being free except for people who wanted VIP tickets. But it then came to light that it was a lie, and that every person present at the event had been a purchased VIP ticket, due to the website showing that free tickets had been sold out. The fallout from the scandal created a frenzy that resulted in lawsuits, companies going bankrupt, and a number of documentaries going back on the event, with hours of footage from people who were actually there on the day of the debacle. Brooke Houts is a name that inspires immediate anger to those who know it. A creator on YouTube since 2014, Brooke became better known after adopting a puppy named Sphinx, who became the biggest attraction on her channel, bringing her thousands upon thousands of viewers. She was streaming a fun and cheeky lifestyle with Sphinx and people loved her for it. But that was until August 2019, when Brooke posted a seemingly normal video in which she, unfortunately for her, did not realize that she had forgotten to edit out some disturbing images that clearly had not intended for anyone to see. The uncut footage shows Brooke repeatedly punching Sphinx and shoving him around as he tries to play with her while she talks to the camera. As he accidentally interrupts her during her outro, she grabs him, pins him to the ground, yells at him to stop before spitting on him. The part ends with Brooke slapping Sphinx one last time, prompting him to walk away of the screen, audibly whining out of fear as she walks towards him. The world, the media, and Brooke's former fans erupted in a mighty rage, tearing her to shreds online and calling for her to be arrested for animal cruelty. The police actually listened and opened an investigation on Brooke, and she later attempted to apologize on YouTube, but unsuccessfully. Her career completely vanished in less than 24 hours, and while she has tried many times to make a comeback following it all, she has been brutally rejected every single time, prompting her to disappear again. Jay Station is considered to be the very worst of YouTube. He has been called out numerous times by other creators for being toxic, manipulative, and creepy. YouTube even blacklisted his channel and eventually deleted it, forcing him to migrate to a new one. Many people still wonder why he is allowed to be on YouTube at all. Why? All of that for one simple reason. In 2019, Jay Station decided to fake his girlfriend's death for views. He actually tried to make his audience believe that his girlfriend Alexia Morano had died in a brutal car crash and that he was grieving her loss. He even built a fake crash site on the side of a road to show where she died. The Green Video series was leading towards Jay attempting to talk to her spirit, but he never made it there. Thousands of people called him out, eventually forcing him to admit he was lying. Alexia later revealed to be a victim of domestic abuse, claiming that Jay regularly bullied her and forced her to do things for the sake of getting views and subscribers on YouTube. The allegations eventually led to Jay being arrested and charged for assault with a weapon. He has since returned to YouTube and posts regularly, but Jay Station will always be remembered by the public as the creep who faked his girlfriend's death for fame. Jana Murray, better known to the world as Jana Marbles, is arguably one of the biggest YouTube stars to ever be on the platform. She is the female YouTuber with the largest amount of subscribers ever, with over 20 million viewers on her channel. Jana is considered to be a true pioneer and legend of YouTube culture, and a positive role model that people, kids and adults alike, have been glad to look up to. However, in 2020, Jana became the greatest example of what happens when the toxicity of cancel culture backfires. Despite the fact that Jana is an extremely lovable human being with great values, some people took issues with jokes she made almost a decade ago that were deemed by many to be racist and offensive. But, weirdly enough, that wasn't the controversial part. The controversy that everyone talked about came a few days later when Jana released an emotional video to acknowledge and apologize for the jokes, in which she explained that she never meant to hurt anyone and that there were no excuses for her jokes. And then, to everyone's absolute shock, she announced that she was quitting YouTube for good, after 10 years of weekly videos. No one saw this coming and the internet went into a frenzy. Even the people who were actively cancelling her seemed to be distraught by her sudden departure. And while some thought that she would be back after a couple of weeks, Jana's channel is still abandoned today, over 7 months later, along with all of her social media profiles. Nobody actually expected her to leave, and the sadness and the scandal that came with the departure of one of YouTube culture's original pioneers even piqued the attention of mainstream media outlets, who covered the story for weeks on end.